And Caitlin, Huey-Burns and Zeke Miller are sticking around as we move to the next big story of the day, the House GOP draft bill on Obamacare. Zeke, let me start with you. President Trump Monday said the replacement plan was, quote, wonderful, but conservative Republicans don't seem to feel the same way. Obamacare 2.0 is what some critics call it. How should we understand this bill? Is this just a starting point for negotiation?
The White House, today was offering mixed messages on that, essentially taking credit and ownership of the bill, saying they worked hand in hand with House Republicans to draft it, at the same time calling it just the beginning, that there was going to be some element of negotiation on the back end. But conservative Republicans are really never going to be satisfied with a package that moderate Republicans are willing to pass, and both sides need to come together in order to bring something to the president's desk. And that's what makes this so hard, is that if you start the whip operation right now, looking at the Senate, already looking at the House, it's really hard to see how either of these bills, how this bill makes it through either chamber. And that's why we're starting to see a little bit of a bullying or rallying effort from the White House in the last couple of days, basically saying to moderate Republicans on one side, conservative Republicans on the other, you've spent 8 years campaigning against Obamacare. This is the one shot to get rid of it. And if you don't do that, you're going to have to answer to your voters. We'll see whether or not that ultimatum actually sticks.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin, how much room for error here do Republicans have? I mean, you look at the numbers, he talks about the votes here. It seems, given the vehement opposition that we've seen already, it could be really close.
Exactly. On this legislation and other key items, Republicans really have little votes to spare on this. You need 218 votes in the House. Paul Ryan laid down a very significant marker. He said he was confident he would get 218 votes. That's a pretty bold statement given the opposition from conservative lawmakers. In the Senate, you have an even smaller margin. Just 3 need to defect to derail this bill, and already you have Rand Paul, Mike Lee opposing this legislation as it stands. Ted Cruz has also been a vocal opponent of these kinds of pieces of legislation, and so there is little room for error. What's really interesting, though, is that you do have this pressure from conservative outside groups coming in. They feel like they're bolstered by the opposition within the House and the Senate. At the same time, they're also contending with the fact that in many of these Republican districts, conservative districts, voted for Trump. And so that is why Paul Ryan and House leadership wants Trump to be out there selling this. They are touting the fact that he is on board because they think that he can carry some sway if he seizes the bully pulpit and really gets involved in twisting some arms here. Conservatives say, that's fine, but a lot of these lawmakers also ran ahead of Trump in some of these districts. So you have all these political dynamics coming down, and this really validates what we heard President Trump say, that this is a very complicated issue.
So Zeke, Caitlin talks about the bully pulpit here. Are we hearing of any kind of plan right now, a blitz to push this plan forward from the White House, seeing the president out there trying to rally support for this?
Right now, they're not ruling anything out. They also don't have anything on the calendar yet, certainly that they're willing to share. The White House is sort of in a position where they sort of have their finger in the wind, trying to get a sense of where the various factions of the Republican Party and Congress are going to be, as well as those outside groups and even Trump's base. Where are they on this law? I mean, one of the other elements that you sort of complicate this is that Trump voters, a lot of them are on Obamacare and benefit from it. And if you take the word Obamacare out and you just describe sort of the services that they receive under the law, they are broadly supportive of it, and that's what's made it so difficult for Republicans to craft a repeal and replacement plan, and that's what will ultimately make it difficult for Trump, because ultimately, whatever he signs will be known as Trump Care, for better or for worse, and he's very concerned and careful about things that will affect his legacy.
Zeke, let me stay with you for a moment. The White House, interestingly, dispatched Vice President Mike Pence to Capitol Hill to pitch this bill to skeptics. And I wonder, how critical do you think he is in terms of serving as the White House's liaison to Congress on this issue right now?
Mike Pence is a known quantity on Capitol Hill. Donald Trump never been elected to anything before the White House, hasn't really spent a lot of time in Washington, hadn't really stepped foot in the Capitol before that meeting he took the Thursday after he was elected. That's how little known he is there among lawmakers. A lot of them don't trust him. They view him warily. Mike Pence, on the other hand, served in the House, is very well known, friendly with a lot of these members. They trust him. They trust his legislative chops. They certainly got to know his team. He is the point person here for a reason. He's the person that hope that congressional Republicans are hoping can sort of bring the president into the fray, can get him onto the stump, sort of make him, have him twist some arms for some members, fly to some districts where members aren't really sure if they want to vote for the law or not. They're really counting on Mike Pence to sort of be their liaison for the White House, and ultimately, if this thing gets through, it will likely be because of significantly because of Paul Ryan and Mike Pence.
Caitlin, let me ask you, conservative advocacy groups, as we know, have already voiced their opposition to this health care plan. What kind of cover do you think Republicans are going to be getting from leadership on this issue as they try to kind of push back against those criticisms?
Right, that's a great question, because you do have these conservative groups providing cover for conservative lawmakers and adding pressure at the same time. There's questions about what kind of money is involved. I talked to some of these conservative groups, and they're not yet ready to commit totally to on-air ground campaigns, although they're ready and willing to, depending on, they want to see how the situation plays out. On the other side, though, you don't have as much parity, right? Interestingly, the Wall Street Journal came out today and said they were supportive of the plan, the editorial board, I should say. That isn't likely to sway conservative lawmakers. They aren't typically swayed by that. But you also have groups affiliated with Paul Ryan who have been running messages on air and are going to continue to do so, and they want to provide some political cover. But I think, again, Republican lawmakers who want this bill to go through are hoping that the president provides some of that cover for him, which is really an interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
This is why it's so complicated. They haven't dealt with this kind of thing with a Republican president and a president like Trump, who's not an ideologue.
Right, and not an ideologue, and the communication skills and the ability to connect with his base, really will be fascinating to watch if he gets out there on the stump.
Exactly.
Finally, I want to ask both of you about the latest WikiLeaks release. President Trump has been highly critical of the U.S. intelligence community, but in the past has praised WikiLeaks. Now, though, that he's commander-in-chief, Zeke, does this possible disclosure of classified intelligence methods put pressure on him to kind of publicly shift from his past position on WikiLeaks?
Absolutely. The White House position today was we don't comment on potential disclosures of national security information. That will only last so far. Already, national security sources are starting to suggest that some of these revelations are of legitimate information, which would mark a very significant breach of national security. We're going to have to hear at some point President Trump either sort of in a statement that he will make, or certainly from the next time he gets in front of cameras, he will face questions about WikiLeaks and about this disclosure of national security information. And if he doesn't change his tune, certainly, we're talking about a lot about bring Republicans, the divide between congressional Republicans and the president. We've seen that on the issue of WikiLeaks and national security information throughout the campaign in the last year. If he doesn't take a strong stand, he's going to have a lot of trouble with a lot of national security Republicans on Capitol Hill.
And also, Caitlin, though, is this also an opportunity for President Trump to potentially begin repairing his relationship with the intel community at a time when, as we know, there have been significant tensions? It
could be. It's difficult to predict exactly what he will do or whether he wants to make it an issue that he is making this an issue. And so I really do think that Republicans on Capitol Hill would like him to come out and take a strong stance on this. It could help to kind of reset some things up there. But again, I'm not sure exactly what steps it will take. And there are so many news cycles within a news cycle that I'm wondering, too, what kind of pressure is put on this sort of thing.
All right, we'll continue to watch it all. Caitlin Huey-Burns here in New York and Zeke Miller in Washington. Thank you both.
Thank you.